Hey everybody, welcome back to Disappointing Your Demons. I am Ron, a grateful and recovering alcoholic. Do apologize that this video is a little late. My daughter gave birth to my grandson on Wednesday the 15th, so I had a lot of stuff going on and wasn't able to sit down and have the emotional capacity to actually make this video. I do now, but that is also one of the gifts of sobriety, is that I was able to be there for my family, whereas had I been using or drinking, I definitely would not have been invited. But I was able to be there physically and mentally, and it was such a wonderful experience, and I'm so glad I got to be part of it. But with that being said, I'm going to get into the story. But before that, if you could like and comment and subscribe, help get the word out there, help make this channel grow, I would greatly appreciate it. I just want my message to get out there to as many people as possible. I think where I left off was that my wife had given me the old heave-ho, and I went and out and drank like crazy for yet another night, and then decided that it was time that I needed help, that I could not do this anymore, and so she dropped me off to Detox. Detox was interesting to say the least. I was scared. I certainly was scared. I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew about recovery. I knew about recovery programs in the past. I had gotten a DUI when I was 21 down in Maryland, and so I was court ordered to attend AA meetings, but I just took it as a joke. Like, I was 21, still partying. I didn't have a problem as far as I was concerned, and when I got into AA, the AA meetings, I would just sit there and look around and be like, oh wow, look at all these losers, all these alcoholics, drinking problem. That's not me. I'm just here because I made one little mistake. Well, little did I know that years and years later, I'd be one of those losers in AA, and it was the only thing that was going to save my life, honestly. But anyways, detox. It was a 5-day detox, and in that time, they give you meds, make sure you're not going through DTs and everything, and they have speakers come in, and they have groups, and you basically forced to sit through and go to AA meetings while you're in this detox. But on a side note, it was weird, because my age group, everybody was literally like, in my generational area were alcoholics, and everybody that was like in their 20s and generation around that age, they were all heroin addicts. So it was kind of scary because I've got daughters, and I'm just thinking, geez, this is crazy. Like, all these kids hooked on heroin. But anyways, that's neither here nor there really. But it's just an interesting observation. So I go through the detox program, and I'm all for it. I'm geared up. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna get my family back. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And not once did I ever say, oh, I'm going to get my life back. I'm going to do this for me. I'm doing it for everybody else. But my wife told me, before I could come home, like, I had to do extra steps. Like, I couldn't just go to detox and think that 5 days of detox I'm going to be allowed back into the house and get my family back. So I decided that I was going to go to a sober living facility. Now, back in those days, I always know them as like what was called a halfway house, but they had a newer, more politically correct name, and it was a sober living facility. And so enroll in that, and another scary moment, because I'm not sure, like, I'm still newly sober, haven't had a drink in 5 days. I'm still kind of fuzzy from all of that and not knowing what to expect. I'm not getting to go back to my house or anything like that, and so I'm nervous about that. So a kid that lived at the sober living house came and picked me up. That was the deal. Like, you had to come right from the detox to the sober living facility, no detours or anything like that. Basically, I had a backpack full of clothes, and that was all I had getting to this getting to this place. And there was a town over from where I lived, so at least it was close to my family. And you were allowed to have cars, your car there. You were allowed to work. You had to pay rent. There was all sorts of rules. It was really strict. But I get there, and everybody's welcoming me, and there's people of all different age groups, and they're all happy, and they're trying, and I meet a lot of good people there, and when we're doing we have our own house meeting, AA meeting, and then we had to go to an AA meeting every night. There was weekly drug tests that you had to make it to. If you failed the drug test, you were immediately removed from the house. Um, it was just the kind of thing that I needed at the time, although I didn't realize that I needed it at the time. But I was in this halfway house, and I met some people that would be pretty important to my story in there later on. Um, and then I started, being able to see my kids. We would go to church on Sundays. I was really trying, but again, I wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it for the fact that I was doing it for my ex-wife. I was doing it for my kids. I was doing it for my parents. But it was never just about me getting healthy for me. Um, One of the big things in the house for some reason is everybody drank monsters, and I remember one day I drank like 4 or 5 monsters in a very short amount of time, and oh my god, like I got so sick. But yeah, and it and monsters turn your pee like neon colors. It's really weird. But after that incident, I swore off of monsters from that day forward. Any sort of energy drink. um, I could quit those no problem. It's the alcohol. But anyway, so in the meantime, we're doing this, and or I'm doing this, and I just get a hair across my ass. Um, a girl had messaged me while I was in the because we're allowed to use Facebook and stuff, and a girl had messaged me while I was in the halfway house, and whispering in my ear that, oh, you're really an alcoholic. You're just kind of a guy who drinks too much. You're not really an alcoholic. You don't really think you should be there. And the demons start to whisper, and they're telling me, you don't really belong there. She's right. It's crazy. And then I just kind of got a case of the fuck it. And also in the meantime, like, I, you're not supposed to make any big decisions within the first year of being sober and whatever. But I decided, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, in that time that I was in the sober living house, um, that I didn't want to be with my ex-wife anymore. I just decided that I didn't want to be married anymore, and that I was still going to try to do the sober living thing, even though I decided that I wasn't going to be with her, and I still wanted to see my kids and everything. So I decide after a little while. I think it was like 60. I was in there for like 60 days, and after 60 days, I decided, and the demons again are whispering in my ear that I can control it. It's not really a problem. It was her that was the problem. It was my family that was the problem. I decided to check myself out of the sober living facility, and I had every intention of I guess staying sober. I don't know, but at first, but then I just the truth of the matter was I looked around, and I was newly single, just divorcing my wife or separating from my wife. And I looked around and I says, really, am I going to be spending my newfound freedom after an 11-year marriage surrounded by 12 dudes and sober as fuck? And the answer to that was no. No, the fuck I am not. So I checked myself out. There was a kid that I knew that had an apartment. It was like a 4-bedroom apartment, and rented me out a room for really cheap. Hey, alcoholics, freaking, wet dream. Well within my means, so I had plenty of money to spend on booze and everything. And I went on another run. I started off as it always does. Oh, I'll just have a beer. It'll be fine. And then next thing you know, I'm drinking just as much as I was before I went to detox. And now on top of it all, I don't have a family and responsibility per se holding me back. And this run, oh my God. And after a while, like, I think I kind of had everybody fooled. Like, I didn't tell people that I was drinking. I, didn't really go out and see the people that I had been drinking with. I just kind of drank by myself, or would go to like bars that I knew that nobody would be at that I knew. And, I had decent paying jobs, managing shops, but one by one I would lose them, until finally I got into this shop as the service manager. And the guy that was my assistant manager drank just like me. And so it was a small chain. They had 2 shops, and one of them was in a town called Watertown, and that was the main shop where the owner of the 2 shops spent pretty much all of his time. And then I was in a town called Stoughton, and he had cameras everywhere, but me and my assistant manager figured out the blind spots in the cameras, and also figured out ways to like cover for each other. And so I would drink for a few days, not show up, and he would cover for me every time. He'd say, oh no, he's on a test drive, or or I'd be so hungover or whatever, even drinking at work, and then I would be hiding like underneath like one of the cameras where you couldn't see. But anyways, that went on for a while, for like, I don't know, I want to say almost, yeah, it went on for almost 6 months, for about half a year. And in the meantime, I had gotten myself another apartment that was slightly bigger, and my ex-wife, I don't think, realized that I was drinking again, or if I was, or she knew that I was drinking. She didn't think I was drinking that much. And then the other thing that I would do too is that uh, I would also go to all the different liquor stores in town. Like, I would go to one on like Monday morning, or Monday evening, and then the next day, I'd go to the one across town, because I didn't want any of them to know I was an alcoholic. And I would do that, and it was like a full-time job doing that. One liquor store to the next, to the next, to the next. And but somehow, managed to have my kids over and all that went good at first. And all the other thing too was all the nights at the bars, and the womanizing, and I'd have to make sure that any trace of any female that came over was gone, because I didn't want my kids to find it. It was right back to my old shitty ways, honestly, like lying all the time, trying to figure out what lie I had to keep going with this person so that they wouldn't find out, and also meanwhile keep my alcoholism a secret. And anytime the kids were coming over, I'd have to clean up all the beer cans and the beer bottles and everything. And it just kept getting worse and worse over the course of that year. Until finally it started coming to a head, and I started losing everything again. And there's this one particular time that I'm really not proud of, but this just is a perfect example, and I have to tell it here just to show you exactly what kind of an alcoholic I am. Um, so one day, sorry, give me a second. One day, I have visitation with my kids, and it's the weekend, and for whatever reason, before they even got dropped off, I had started drinking in the morning, and fortunately, my mother dropped them off, and I really think parents, they're in denial all the time about how bad their child is, or they're just trying to look the other way, or they're whatever reason. My mom just dropped them off and didn't question whether I was drunk or not, and that was that. So I have my kids, and they're running around, they're playing, and I'm still sitting there and I'm drinking, and I'm just like, yeah, yeah, go play, whatever. Well, at some point in the day, I passed out drunk, and my oldest daughter, tried to wake me up. She couldn't wake me up. She kept trying to wake me up. Well, she couldn't wake me up. I was passed out, and she snuck my or pulled my had to pull my cell phone out of my pocket and call her mother and tell her mother, like, we're hungry. It's supper time. We can't wake up dad. We're not sure if he's dead or not. Like, can you come over? Like, it's an emergency. So I guess she came over, checked and made sure that I was still alive, still breathing, and she scoops up the kids and leaves with them. Well, I didn't know this, obviously, because I'm passed out. So I wake up, or I should say, I come to, and no kids. And now I start, like, okay, I look around, I look in the bedroom, no kids. I look around out in the yard, it's dark out. And then finally decide to look at my phone, see what time it is. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I can't find my kids anywhere. So I'm panicking, and really, like, I had one of two decisions to make. I either call 911 or I call my ex-wife first, and then if she doesn't know anything about them, where they are, like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like, I'm literally ready to puke. Also, I'm freaking still a little drunk and starting to get hungover. So I call my ex-wife, and she's like, I was wondering when I was gonna hear from you. And I was like, Nettie, we gotta, where, where are the children? I cannot find the kids. I cannot find the kids. I'm so sorry. She goes, no. She told me the whole thing about how Mari had to use the phone. She goes, so they're safe. She says, but, you know, you're never seeing them again. You're never seeing them again. I'm going to go to court. I'm going to do all this. You're never seeing them again. Period. She goes, I can't trust you. I can't trust you with the children. And you would think that that would have been enough to stop me from drinking. And it wasn't. It wasn't. It wasn't enough. And as a matter of fact, as soon as I got off the phone with her, I cracked a beer because I got to calm my nerves. I got to make myself feel better. Here I am. I've literally just heard that I'm never seeing my children again. And the most important thing to me is getting a drink. Well, that kept on going on for I want to say about 2 months. There was some bullshit that happened in between. I got robbed. There's a lot of stuff that went wrong. But anyhow, and now at this point, my drinking's. I'm not going to work. I'm losing my job. I'm losing my apartment because I haven't paid rent. I'm also like, I'm just in shambles. Like, my life is just falling the fuck apart, and it's just not enough to get me to stop. And also, I have this little easy chair with a mini fridge right in front of it. It's always stocked with a 30 pack. I always had money for booze somehow. It's stocked with a 30 pack of beer at all times. And then in the freezer, I always have a bottle of tequila, and I always have, it was always a pint of tequila and a pint of vodka. And this vodka and tequila was not the good vodka and tequila. It's like literally the stuff on the bottom shelf in plastic bottles with a paper label that says either like this is vodka or this is tequila, and it all tasted like rubbing alcohol. So it wasn't good. But it was alcohol. So I'm sitting there. I'm sitting there in my easy chair one morning. And I remember this day. Sitting there in my easy chair one morning, and I had just come to. Didn't have to go to work because I didn't have a job no more. I think I was like told I only had like 7 days to get out. No, I had a month to get out of my apartment. And I remember this day like it was yesterday. I sit up because I had fallen asleep passed out in my easy chair. And I sat up, opened up my mini fridge, grabbed a beer. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning, whatever time it was, and I crack it open. And something came over me. Like I just looked around and I said, this is the best that it gets. This is as good as it's going to get. Like, this is really like what I have, like, this is really what I have accomplished. Like, this is really as good as it's going to get. Sitting in my easy chair, drink, pass out, come to, drink, rinse, repeat. And I just, like I said, I have nothing. The only thing that I have is the clothes that I have, my shitty freaking car that I only paid $500 for, because thank God I didn't have a car payment or anything like that, because I would be probably would have lost that too. And I'm sitting there, and this rage, this something just came over me, and I start slamming the arm of my easy chair, and I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, screaming, going, God, either fucking kill me or take it away. I can't take this anymore, but just do something. Kill me or take it away. And I'm screaming that over and over again, and I'm banging on that easy chair harder and harder. And all of a sudden, now, I don't know about you. I can't speak for other people. Like, I believe in God. I do have a higher power, and I believe he does work in my life. And, I do understand that, some people have a problem with the whole God thing. But my question to you at this point would be, hey, it's okay to drink till you pass out and you piss yourself, or you stumble down the freaking flight of stairs, or you end up in a ditch somewhere, covered in bruises. But, oh, fuck, watch out, God, oh, God, you mentioned that. That's way out of line. Fuck out of here. Anyway, I have a higher power, and I choose to call him God. And God has spoken to me in the past, and this time, and when he does speak to me, he sounds like an old Italian grandfather. And I've heard, and when God talks to you, he talks to you in a voice that you would be comfortable with. And so he sounds to me like an old Italian grandfather, but he says, well, I'm sitting there, I just hear this voice in my head, and he goes, are you done? And just this feeling of calm came over me, and I got tears streaming down my face. And I just closed my eyes, and I go, yeah, I'm done. And he goes, are you sure? And I said, yeah, I'm sure. I can't do this alone. I need help. I can't do this. Please just take it away or kill me. And then I hear the voice in my head. He goes, it's over. And swear to God, like, I'm drinking at this point, I'm drinking a 30 pack a day plus, a pint of vodka or a pint of tequila. And that feeling, I just looked at my beer, and I got up out of the easy chair, and I go over to the sink, and I dump out my beer. Now, if you knew me back then, to get that beer out of my hand, you would have had to have killed me. Like, I was not giving that up willingly, and I proceeded to dump out every single beer, every ounce of liquor that I had in the house. I didn't want it anymore. I didn't crave it anymore. I don't know how to explain it, but that happened. And then I sat back down in my easy chair, and I literally heard the voice in my head again say, "All right, buckle up." And for 4 days, I detoxed in my apartment. I didn't I didn't have health insurance, so I didn't think that I could go to like a detox or anything like that. Come to find out, years later, when I'm telling my story, well, not years later, but a little while later, when I'm telling the story at the podium of an AA meeting, a woman came up to me and she's like, "I'm a nurse. I heard your story, and don't ever do that again. You could have died." So I'm detoxing in my apartment for 4 days. I was shaking so bad that alls I could do, I could, if I had to go to the bathroom, I had to crawl. I couldn't walk. I was shaking that bad. I couldn't barely get anything to drink, water or anything, because my hands were just shaking so bad. I was going through, come to find out, there's a medical term for it, delirium tremens. But I'm having auditory hallucinations. I never had any visual hallucinations, but I had really bad auditory hallucinations. Old timey music like you would hear in like World War II, reels, or sirens was another big one. Like I was hearing, like I thought there was like a car accident outside my apartment, and I went and I staggered over to the window and threw it open and looked, and there was nothing. It's just, and the sirens are going like crazy. That subsided after a couple of days. And then it was a Friday, um, and it was a Friday, and I felt well enough, and I knew what I had to do. I knew that where there was a meeting in North Attleboro, kind of close to my apartment, and it was called Faith Works. And I got myself dressed and cleaned up as best I could, and I go there. And as I walk through the door, there's this guy. He recognizes me, and I recognize him, and we'll just call him Jay. He was in the sober living facility with me in my brief time there, but he stuck it out, and he graduated, and he was doing his thing. And so this is again like a year later, a little over a year later, and he sees me, and I can tell that that he sees me, and like I look like shit, but it didn't matter. He just stuck out his hand, and he said, "Welcome. We're happy you're here." And then he said, "How's it going, Ron?" And I said, "Not so good." And he says, "It's okay." He goes, "I saved you a seat." And he brings me in, and he sits down next to me, and he kind of rubbed my back a little bit, and he goes, "No shame. No shame." He goes, "But you are grabbing your 24-hour chip today." And on that day, I asked him to be my sponsor. And for the first time in I don't know how fucking long, I had hope. I had hope that this fucking nightmare was over, that the demons would just stay away, and I was on a path to getting out of this. Because this time around, I was doing it for me. I didn't want to die. On that day, I didn't give up. I surrendered. And that was the start of a beautiful journey. I guess, so that's it for today. Um, that's it for today. It's a good stopping point. I really appreciate you all for listening and watching. please hit the like and subscribe button. All right. See you in the next video.